the one and only Ann Coulter, who has a new book out, and it's a classic, as all of hers are. This was entitled Resistance is Futile. How are you doing, Ann? Great to have you back here with us.
So happy to be here, and thank you for the excellent title, but mine is a different kind of resistance.
Well, now, I was going to ask you about it. You know, Ann, I have to be honest. Sometimes, you run hot and cold on the people that you fervently endorse. Romney was a disappointment, for example. And I don't know, I haven't yet been able to determine where you're coming down with President Trump as we sit here today, but we'll find out.
Yes.
In due course. But resistance is futile. Now, you can take that any number of ways. Are you talking about the left-wing resistance to Trump is futile? Or what resistance here?
Not the resistance to you, Rush, who are irresistible.
That's right. There isn't any.
There isn't any, exactly. No, this is the resistance that shockingly Hillary Clinton claimed to join a few months after the election. You know, in America, we refer to political opponents who lose as the loyal opposition. If Trump had lost the election and a few months afterwards announced that he was part of the resistance, people would say that's a military term. That's the French Revolution, the resistance to the Nazis. He's dog whistling to the militias. It's a message to the KKK, and imagine that then being accompanied by right-wing violence against Hillary supporters, as we have seen, enormous violence by Antifa and left-wing lunatics against Trump supporters. I think people would recognize we're in the middle of a fascist uprising and that it was absolutely irresponsible for a losing presidential candidate to announce that to be part of the resistance. It's actually pretty shocking that she did that.
Well, I remember, during the, I guess it was the last debate, and Chris Wallace, I think, asked Trump, because it had been, they've been buzzing about this. Mr. Trump, can you tell us, if you lose the election, will you concede? And Trump said, no, I'm not going to tell you that tonight. I'm not going to let you run a headline that I'm announcing I'm losing the election tonight. Right. I remember the reaction they had at conniption, and Trump is a threat to democracy. Trump's going to throw 200 plus years overboard. Now look.
Yes, and at the time I was a little testy with Chris Wallace for not asking the same question of Hillary. Boy, was I right. I guess he should have, since they aren't accepting the results of the election.
Okay, first chapter, the resistance. Trump is Hitler times infinity. So you're characterizing the left-wing resistance here and how they're reaching just the extreme degrees that you make it. How do they have any credibility, even with some of their wacky support? None of it makes sense. None of what they're doing or saying makes any sense to anybody.
No, I know. The leftists have a mollusk's grasp of history, so they know Hitler bad, fascism bad. So what do we call Trump if we want to call him the worst thing we can think of? He's Hitler. He's like Hitler. And it's not just, the crazy social justice warriors and the Antifa and university professors out yelling this stuff. This has appeared in the pages of the New York Times, in columns by David Brooks, and a book by Madeleine Albright warning Republicans that this cult of personality. So then he gets an authoritarian personality. Then he gets into office, and it turns out he has the exact opposite of an authoritarian personality. He has a suck-up personality. I don't remember Joseph Stalin going around saying, oh, these people are incredible. They're fantastic people. Kim Jong-un, he just loves his people. I love these kids. He is, as many have said, Trump is like a couch cushion. He bears the impression of the last person who talks to him. He's doing many great things, but to describe him as having an authoritarian personality, or take the example of his not following an unconstitutional executive order of Obama's on DACA and his, as I refer to it, the Muslim ban. The three branches of government are, to use one of my favorite words, co-equal, because it means the same as equal. So the president has all of the powers of the executive branch in his hands. Some potty little district court judge in Hawaii is going to tell him no. I would love for some president someday to say, thanks for your opinion, Judge, but I took an oath to uphold the Constitution, too. I have the authority as president given to me by the Constitution and by the law to exclude any immigrants in the interests of national security, which he has full authority to do, but he doesn't. No, Trump says, fine, we will appeal this. We will wait. We'll work its way through the court. So, it really is just them knowing that Hitler is supposed to be bad. They may as well call Trump a poopy head.
Well, I remember when this program started some 30 years ago, it was so uncool to refer to any political opponent as Hitler back then. It was lazy. So it was said to be intellectually lazy.
Yeah.
It's damaging. Nobody could be anywhere close to Hitler, much less worse. And now look, it's part of their retinue. It's part of their daily lexicon. Look at look. You've been chronicling this for the left and their craziness for the longest time, and now the resistance. But is any of it working? Does any of it concern you?
Not really. I mean, the violence concerns me as anyone any Trump supporter has to worry about getting beaten up by going to a Trump rally or being thrown out of a restaurant. I mean, yeah, that's I admit a little irksome. But I think the resistance would be much better off if they'd read my book. I give them some tips on how they ought to be attacking Trump, which is to attack him on the worst thing he's actually done. And stop running off on wild, demented conspiracy theories that no one believes and screaming that he's Hitler.
Well, give me an example of something he's done that you think they could legitimately score some points with. I mean, they've tried accusing him of separating families at the border.
Right.
And I've even had people on our side say, Rush, that's really bad. Those pictures are bad. Trump's got to do it. I said, he didn't do it.
Right.
He didn't do it. People respond to the media. It's amazing, even on our side, how sometimes it is easy for the media to start creating doubt. You're not going to be giving anything away.
If I were advising the Democrats, and don't worry, they're not going to listen to the excellent advice I am imparting to them. Look, Sherrod Brown is an old-style Democrat, senator from Ohio. He used to 100% agree with Trump on the trade deals. Jesse Jackson, Barbara Jordan, Harry Reid, Barbara Boxer, and Di-Fi used to all agree with Trump on the immigration issue. This is a new thing. The entire Democratic Party's philosophy and the left-wing philosophy is, where's Trump on that? Oh, that's awful. I think we could get the left to start defending pederasty if we told them that Trump was against it. But if they went back to their old-style Democratic politics, what you would attack Trump for is not really hopping to on all of those promises, like the wall. But they can't do it. They can't. Look at Molly Tibbetts last week. That, if the Democratic Party were sane, that should be Trump's Kate Steinle. He's president. He's got a Republican House. He's got a Republican Senate. But don't worry, Democrats have blown it. They won't take advantage of it.
You think do you believe, since you bring this up, you think there's going to be a blue wave? You think a Democrat's going to take the House?
Well, there will be, historically, the odds are overwhelming that there should be a blue wave. I think the resistance keeps bringing Trump's voters back. And if he really pushes on the popular issues he won the election on, immigration, trade, no more pointless wars, and gives a lot of rallies. I've been recommending that his staff just block off September and October and do nothing but Trump rallies. I keep seeing on MSNBC, I'm a hate watcher because I'm unusual that way. They keep claiming, oh yeah, I don't think a Trump rally is going to help in my district. Oh, it's just going to turn off the suburban soccer moms. No. Do not take advice from MSNBC. Trump coming to town totally energizes the base. They spread out. It goes out in concentric circles. It's like listening to you, Rush. It spreads beyond the actual person listening to you. They tell their coworkers and their neighbors. So I think he can limit it, and luckily we have a lot of seats to give up in the House, and it's very unlikely that the Democrats will take the Senate. We don't really have that many seats up.
Well, I think you're right about the rallies. Did I read the other day where they're blocking out as many as 4 days a week in the September and October, not every week, but some weeks he's going to go out that many times.
He should definitely do that. That's brilliant. Because if we do lose the House, that is absolutely the end of hope.
How how do you convey that message? You know, I was telling people today and yesterday, these the GDP numbers out today, 4.2%. Blue collar workers survey, they're overwhelmingly in love with Trump. They have a renewed faith and so forth. The tax cuts. This economy is genuinely booming in ways that it hasn't in enough time that some people have never lived through an economy booming like this. They've only lived through an America in decline. They've been told to get used to an America decline, that jobs are not coming back. Somehow Trump and his team have got to get the message out that if the Democrats win, this all ends.
Yeah.
Because the Democrats equal Venezuela. Maybe you don't want to say that. That's maybe too extreme, but the Democrats are going to bring all this to a screeching halt on purpose.
Oh, yes, that's absolutely right. One of the wonderful things about Trump, I mean, he does get the message out. And as I say in the last chapter, we may not get the wall out of him. But I do think the way he raises issues on Twitter, I completely disagree with the cliche you hear all the time on TV. Oh, he tweets too much. No, I love his tweeting. I want him to be the official communicator for the Republican Party.
Wait a minute. Now, my memory could be failing me, but I thought, speaking of the wall, I thought there was a period of time, and maybe 2 months ago, that you had really gotten down on Trump and were openly saying so. It seemed like you'd lost some faith, and it was about the wall, it was about immigration, but you don't sound like that today.
Well, I've been giving him tough love on the wall since the day after the election. No, I assume you and everyone remembers election night. I remember it very distinctly. And I thought, after Adios America and In Trump We Trust, it's finally happened. We have a shot to save America. My work is done. I'm just going to kick back. I'll hang out with Rush Limbaugh in Palm Beach. I'll have cocktails and enjoy myself. No, it turns out this presidency is more of a transactional presidency. He does have to be swatted on the nose with a rolled up newspaper when he goes astray. But remember, he used to do that all the time during the campaign. Remember during that debate when he was worse on H-1B visas than Marco Rubio, and all of Twitter explodes? He has to come out with a clarification and retraction a few hours after the debate. So we do have to keep our eyes on him, but it would have been the end of hope if Hillary had been elected.
Oh my God. Look, there's nobody that outworks him. There's nobody who can keep up with him energy wise. And he has stayed true to every promise that he's made, at least in terms of effort and in terms of accomplishing them more than any president in recent memory. And he's undeterred. I'd take a break, but I want you to speak to his psychology. You know him pretty well. I don't know of any other elected official in this country, Republican especially, who could withstand an average week that Donald Trump gets and still remain focused and positive and upbeat. And basically, we know it bothers him. You know him, and we know it bothers him, but it doesn't deter him. And he's it. And I think this is what his voters get. Without him, what they want dies. And they're going to support, they're not going to let any Access Hollywood video take him out. They're not going to let any of these usual ways the media destroys Republicans. They're not going to let them succeed. They're going to defend him to no end. But anyway, let me take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll continue with Ann Coulter and her new book, Resistance is Futile. We are back with Ann Coulter, brand new, hot off the press. Resistance is Futile, New York Times and every other list bestseller. Look, we already discussed your opinion of Trump and your assessment where he is, and in the limited time we've got here, you claim, and everybody's trying to find out, what is the actual genesis, the beginning of this Russian collusion story? When did it actually, what triggered it? The House committees have been investigating. They think the FBI is shielding documents on when this really began. You've searched the record, and what do you think about it? Where did it begin? When did it begin? Who's behind it?
Well, you already know that it was Hillary Clinton. You've cited Shattered, the book, where they talk about coming up with it after the election. What I think is fun about my book, there are a few three important historical notes. For one thing, Democrats, as you know, always claim we was robbed when they lose an election, unless it's a landslide like Reagan in 1984. But Reagan 1980, there was a huge conspiracy about how Reagan had sent Bush and other emissaries to Iran and asked them to hold the hostages until after the election. That actually appeared on 2/3 of the New York Times op-ed page. That insane, bonkers conspiracy theory. They always say it took the deft touch of the Clintons to have one of these conspiracy theories go on and on and on and consume the entire country. The other interesting thing, because I don't have a job and can spend all day reading Nexus, is when it was first launched, the Russia conspiracy theory, it was by Robbie Mook, Hillary's campaign manager, on the eve of the Democratic National Convention. Why? Because the WikiLeaks documents had just gone up. And this is what Hillary always does. When she's caught in the middle of a scandal, she finds some apocryphal enemy to blame. She blames some man in Arkansas for hating her husband after losing to him, Sheffield Nelson for Jennifer Flowers. There was the vast right-wing conspiracy for Monica. She blamed the sexism of the media for her loss to Obama in 2008. So there are always mysterious dark forces conspiring against her when she's caught in a scandal. Third, and I think an hilarious part of the book that can really only be shown in a book, it's sort of a visual thing, is that at the time, the entire mainstream media responded to Robbie Mook's interview with George Stephanopoulos on the eve of the Democratic National Convention, claiming that experts were telling him, that Russia had hacked the DNC and passed it to WikiLeaks in an effort to help Trump. Okay, the New York Times, the LA Times, even the New York Daily News laughed at this. They basically all saw it as the craziest John Bircher conspiracy that even the John Birchers wouldn't have come up with. And as the New York Times and the LA Times and the rest of them said, you're launching this theory on the basis of unnamed experts. Basically, the media did not take it seriously. Even when Hillary brought it up in the debates, the New York Times sort of protected her by mentioning it on page A14. It was not until disaster struck and Hillary lost the election that the media goes looking through the record and what explains this? What could it be? It can't be that Trump was running on popular ideas or there was anything wrong with our love Hillary Clinton. That's when they started pushing it as the exact same reporters, the exact same newspapers suddenly started pushing it as a serious theory.
All right, now, just a couple of minutes here. I want to know what you think of the special counsel investigation, where it's going, how long it's going to go on, and what the ultimate resolution to it's going to be.
Well, it's utterly outrageous. We only have a special counsel because of the false insinuations of James Comey that President Trump was under investigation. Of course Trump was frustrated. He's trying to run the country here, and the head of the FBI, I have the quotes from the hearings, it's just outrageous the way Comey was implying Trump was under investigation. Bam, we get the special counsel. And 2 months later, Comey admits, yeah, he was never under investigation. Not only that, but when we found out the FBI was spying on the Trump campaign, remember, their response was, we weren't spying, we were trying to protect Trump.
Exactly. Okay, 1 minute. Where's it going? How's it end?
Perhaps. I think it's probably useful to. I mean, Trump has full authority to fire Mueller, to throw off the investigation. I think he can probably use it. It's so crazy that it's so far off. I think it's helping Trump.
Yeah, it's you don't sound worried about any of these things, these irons in the fire that the Democrats have to literally destroy him. I mean, they're not going to stop. They're going to give everything they've got. But it's encouraging because you go up and down optimism. It's encouraging to hear that you don't seem to be that worried about all this in the long term. Am I right about that?
Absolutely. Everything the left hates about Trump is what I love about him. I loved his response to Charlottesville. I love him this week attacking the social media, the big tech firms for censorship. I love him going after the media and calling them fake news. It's exactly what I think the base loves about him. We finally have a Republican who fights back.
Excellent. Perfect timing.